Honestly, having the ability to work from home, to work remotely, is one of the coolest things that I've ever experienced. But at the beginning, finding that first job was extremely difficult. It took me a couple months of applying to so many different companies while getting rejected by a bunch of them, and at the end getting like two offers. Once I found a good remote job, honestly, it was really cool experience, and I am very grateful that I lived through it because I had a lot of flexibility with my schedule. I was working in an industry that I really liked and I was enjoying. So finding these jobs can be a little bit difficult, but if you do find them, they could be one of the coolest things that you'll ever live. And I think today, even though a lot of people say that markets are extremely saturated and that there's almost no roles available and that people are basically returning to the office, although some of that is true, I think working from home, working remotely, is going to exist in this year, in 2025, and in a lot more future years. So this isn't an industry, or this isn't something that's going away. And in this video, I wanted to cover a couple of things that really I would have liked to know when I started applying, that would have made the experience a little bit more straightforward or simple. But honestly, I didn't have them and I had to learn them on my own. So here are a couple of things that I think are absolutely critical for you to have if you're looking for a remote job in 2025. The first thing is that you have to specialize in some sort of skill or industry. And what I mean by this is you really need to know what type of jobs or roles you're looking for. You need to know if you want to be a digital marketer, if you want to do email marketing within that, if you want to do paid marketing, if you want to do influencer marketing. Those are all roles inside of digital marketing, but you need to get a little bit specific so that you can learn the skills that are needed. If you want to be a developer, do you want to be a developer for mobile apps? Do you want to be a game designer? Do you want to be a full stack engineer for e-commerce websites? Do you want to be a full stack engineer for startups? These are all more in-depth skills, and you need to specialize yourself in something so that you know where to apply and what's needed of those roles. Something that you can do to achieve this is you can go into LinkedIn and then you can look at companies that you maybe are interested in working, and you see what type of people they hire. You can connect with people on LinkedIn that already have the jobs that you want, and you can speak with them, you can ask them their experience, you can ask them what you need to learn. And that's why I think LinkedIn is honestly one of the best platforms to find a remote job, because you can see what people know and the experience that they have in order to find the jobs that they have. You can also even use ChatGPT or some sort of AI to ask it what skills you need to learn. You could be like you could ask ChatGPT, what skills do I need in order to become a digital marketer focused on paid ads for e-commerce stores? And then ChatGPT is literally gonna give you a general path of things that you can learn in order to find that job that you want. Another example is maybe if you want to do graphic design, you could ask ChatGPT, what tools do I need to learn if I want to be a graphic designer for sports teams or something? And then ChatGPT is going to help you with that as well. So use AI in order to find the skills that you need to learn if you don't know them. The tools are out there, so it's all a matter of sort of starting, taking action in learning whatever it is that we need. One thing that I do think is necessary for the majority of jobs is knowing some sort of project management tool like ClickUp or Asana. In the jobs I've had before, ClickUp and Asana are definitely a must. So maybe that's something that you could start learning. And it's relatively simple, honestly. So maybe that's a first step that you can take. The second thing that you need, in my opinion, is a LinkedIn account, because with LinkedIn, like I said before, you can have a general idea of what companies are looking for. You can connect with people within those companies, you can speak with them, you can see the experience that they're looking for. So LinkedIn is a really great platform that you should focus on when looking for a remote job. I've seen some other platforms where people have fallen for scams and stuff like that, so be really careful with what platforms you use. But LinkedIn really allows me to see if a company is legit, allows me to see what the employees that they have. It leads me to their website. It's really helpful in order to find those roles that I like or that we want. And it's really important that you connect yourself with those people at the companies that you want to work at, because when you're connecting with them, you can ask them about their experience, you can chat with them, you can ask for feedback, and even sometimes these people will refer you to other roles. I remember when I was in my first search, sometimes just by speaking with people, they would refer me to interview roles. And I remember I was really close to getting one role where I was referred to and I wasn't even applying to, just because I was speaking with someone in the platform and just being curious about the industry and asking for roles, asking for guidance. So don't be afraid to use LinkedIn and to connect with people there. Then it's really important to start applying. Now, this is the part where it starts to get a little bit tricky, because it doesn't matter what you know, the skill that you know, if you don't start applying a lot and that you know how to apply. And what I mean by this is it takes a lot of time. So you need to accept that it could take months, it could take maybe even years to find a role if you haven't found a remote role before. So starting to apply is very, very important. I'd say even create an Excel sheet where you track the name of the company, the salary that they have, or the hourly rate that they have. Write down if you applied, write down the date that you applied, and that way you'll keep track of the companies that you're applying to, because it can get really, really messy. And I'm sure that you'll probably have to apply to a lot of different companies before you get your first role. So make sure that you're keeping track of the companies that are responding to you, the ones that are not, and that way you'll have a little bit better idea of what's happening, how your process is going. So it's really important that you organize yourself in that way. And once you're applying, it's also extremely important to have a resume that's easy to read. One page with your experience, your relevant experience, and a couple keywords with the skills that you have. And this is very important because nowadays companies don't even look at your resume if they don't see the keywords in your resume. And what I mean by this is, if a company is hiring a digital marketer with experience in Facebook ads, if the words Facebook ads are not in your resume, the software isn't even gonna vet you, and you're not even gonna go to the next round. They won't even send you an email asking you more questions or asking for an interview. So make sure that in the roles that you're applying, that you have the skills that they're looking for and that you have them written down. Make it concise, make it simple to read, and that's extremely important for applying for these roles. Another really important thing is knowing how to interview. And this is one that really cost me a little bit to understand, and it still does sometimes when I'm applying for roles, because it's literally a game. When companies ask you things, it's an opportunity for them to understand the person that they're dealing with, to see if that person is going to be a good fit in their company. The questions that they're asking you are being asked for a reason. So you need to understand what questions are common, how to answer them, and apply them to yourself. If someone asks you, for example, and this is a mistake I used to make all the time, was what are some of your strengths? And I always said I was very hardworking. Even though that's a great quality to have, it's something that everyone has. Everyone is hard worker. Everyone really wants to work hard for a remote job. That type of quality isn't what a company is looking for. They want a more specific skill. If you say something like, I have exceptional communication, or I have great attention to detail, and I'm very analytical, those are things that they can actually say, this is very important for us to have in this role. That's one that I always got wrong, and it took me a while to understand that that's basically not what they're looking for, and it's basically a game. So make sure to understand that interviewing is really a separate skill. So even if you have a lot of experience with development or marketing or graphic design, you need to know how to interview. So this is basically a separate skill from your specialization. So make sure to know how interviews are and how to speak in them, how to ask questions, all those things. That's a big one. I used to say, whenever they ask you, do you have any questions for us? I used to say, no, I don't. So immediately the company's like, oh, this person is just looking for any job they can find. But it's important that you ask questions so that you understand first what role you're getting into, because sometimes companies do have red flags. So it's important for you to know and to ask questions. And also it makes you a little bit more valuable, because if you're asking them questions like, why is your company a good place to work at? They could be like, oh, we're good because this and that. So you'll have a better idea of what you're getting yourself into. So it's important to know that. And I think it's also very important to understand, once you're getting towards the later stages of the interview, to know how to negotiate as well. This one's very tricky, and I'm not even close to mastering this one. But knowing how to talk about money and compensation towards the end is really important, because you could cut yourself short if you don't know how to. If a company is asking you how much you want to make, let's say you say $2,000 a month, and they say, oh, that's within our budget, you don't know if maybe they were prepared to pay 4 to 5 grand. They already have a budget, they already have a number. By you saying the compensation first, you may be cutting yourself short. Sometimes companies will ask you a couple times just to get a better idea of how much you want to make, and that's totally fine. Sometimes you can just give them a range, but you have to do your research and understand how much money is being paid or offered for the roles that you want. So if, let's say, the role that I'm looking for has a salary of 4 to 6K a month, that's the range that you should say. So knowing how to negotiate and how to talk about compensation is extremely important, and it's another skill that I would say is critical to learn aside from the specialty that you have and knowing how to interview. So knowing how to speak about compensation. And lastly, it's very important to try a lot and to be persistent. I don't like when people say that markets are saturated, but it can be very difficult to find a good remote job. So it's important to be persistent, to not give up, and that can be the trickiest part, because if we don't know anyone that has a remote job, it can be discouraging not to find any results over a long period of time. So when that happens, try to form a circle of people that want that same goal, or who already have it, or who already have some sort of online job. Relating yourself to those people is beneficial for you because they've lived through what you're going through. And it's always great to surround yourself with people who are at a better spot than you, or who have similar goals. Because if you have people that are basically saying that it's too saturated and that you're never going to find it, then that's probably what your mentality is going to be. So try to speak and communicate with people that have that experience and who have gone through it and who have those roles. That could be in Facebook groups, that could be through YouTube, that could be through Reddit, Twitter. There's so many different platforms where you can connect with these kind of people. So it's really important to be persistent and understand that it can take a lot of time if you don't have a skill and if you've never done it before. But I think remote jobs in 2025 are very much alive, and they'll still be here for many more years. So definitely it's something that if you're thinking about it, just do it, just try it and work towards it. And I'm sure it could be one of the best experiences if you find a remote role.